Hi, Kasturi. As we are live, you can start with your session on guiding our viewers on the grounding methods to cope with suicidal thoughts.
Thank you, Tejasvi. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I am Kasturi Roy, a clinical psychologist and a consultant with Just for Hearts. Today is the World Suicide Prevention Day. So, on account of this day, I am going to talk about a few grounding methods to cope with suicidal thoughts. Now, before I go starting into the talk directly, I would like to give a quick disclaimer. All of these methods discussed right now are not an alternative to any kind of professional help. So if you feel worried, overwhelmed after listening to this, or just because you may have been having any such kind of suicidal thoughts, please do not hesitate to take any kind of help, professional help. They are practically trained to help you out in these kind of situations, and they will provide you with a long term solution focused help. So that is something very important I wanted to start with. Okay, so about today's session, about today's live, uh, let's start with what are suicidal thoughts. Suicidal thoughts are basically thinking about intentionally causing one's own death, usually especially due to a number of stressors that a person might have had, or mental conditions or issues that they have been going through. Now, the range of these suicidal thoughts can be varied. It can be something from just fleeting thoughts to extensive thoughts, and also to elaborate planning or attempt. It is extremely scary for an individual to be in a place where they have all of these thoughts going on in their mind. And having these thoughts, these kind of suicidal thoughts, do not always mean that one wants to take their life, because thoughts are not facts. However, several times in our clinical practice, I have seen that a client might just come to us and say that I feel like ending my life. I want to just do away with whatever is going on. However, I don't really want to. I want to feel better. I want to be out of this. So, in situations like this, their thoughts are something they want to just share, maybe open up and deal with it in order to understand what is going on inside. One very important thing with respect to what I just said is, however, that having thoughts of suicide is definitely a big risk factor to suicide, and it must be addressed by a professional. And one of the biggest reason why these thoughts are so daunting for us is because people are unable to, or are mostly scared of, sharing about this with anybody else, whether it's any family member or friends, mostly because of the stigmas that are associated with the word suicide. And as a result of this, it just keeps brewing inside. They keep जैसे बोलते हैं घुट घुट के उस चीज में अंदर ही अंदर चले जाना. Suicidal thoughts are generally associated with depression or any other kind of mood disorders, especially when thoughts are extreme and quite frequent. When people suffer from depression, their mind gets absolutely clouded with a very dark sense of cloud, and their thought process is always telling some or the other kind of lies to them, which is completely molded by the depression. So it loses a sense of rationality or sense of reality at that point of time. So thoughts like no one cares for me, and I don't really have anybody to take care of, or anybody who cares about me. These are the kind of thoughts that people with depression, or people who are who have the tendency of you know going through suicidal thoughts may have had. And from there, it may spiral into a chain reaction of several different negative thought processes, and one totally loses the sense or the track of what is really around us, what the people around us, the things that we have. And that loss of the reality or the situation, the present situation, can be extremely scary for the individual who is thinking about them. This fear response, when anybody goes through, is that is exactly when our limbic system runs the show, runs our entire being at that point of time. The autonomous nervous system of our brain controls our stress and relaxing responses. And when we get scared, it triggers the fight and flight response, wherein it makes us feel like we want to run away from that situation completely. Considering that, what happens is during this time, there's another part of the brain, and not this part of the brain, which controls our conscious and logical thinking. And when we are scared, these two parts of the brain, they don't talk to each other. They are not interacting with each other. It's more like like how in Friends we don't talk for somebody else for a while. That is what happens in our brain during that point of time. So trying to talk into getting out of those emotions, or trying to say things or change our thoughts, are not the right way to go at that point of time, because our rational mind is not working when we are scared. That is why it is so difficult to get rid of the negative thoughts, or to relax for that matter, because again, like I said, the logical part of the brain doesn't work. However, we can train our brain to calm down and become a little bit more relaxed and logical in a different approach. Now, this approach is a body based approach. When we are scared, we have reactions in our body. We have different kind of feelings. Our hands may feel jittery. We may be a little shaky. Same way, we can use our body, or the five senses that we have in our body, to control the absolutely negative thoughts, or the fear that we are going through at that point of time. How do we do this? This is where we come to the term called grounding. What grounding means is that it's a type of coping strategy that is designed to immediately connect yourself to the present moment. So, ground. It will ground you to the reality, to the moment, to the place that you are in as of now, to bring out the scary, to bring that barrier or the break in the scary thought processes which is going on constantly, and to break the chain. Grounding is a very, very, very effective method to reconnect with the here and now. So, how do we go about this grounding? The one of the easiest thing to do, like I mentioned, is to rely on the five senses that we have. So, I'm going to take each of the senses one by one. Let's start with the sense of smell. The sense of smell is very powerful, and it's completely associated with emotions and memory as well. So anything that would be strong enough, to bring us out of that particular state of the mind is good to go. For example, having a tiger balm or iodex rub under your nose, so that that strong sense of smell brings you to the present moment, can be helpful. Essential oils, strong essential oils, maybe some kind of perfume that a person is fond of, or is already very happy to use, that could be very strong. um, Nasal sprays. Nasal sprays are the ones which you use to clear your cold and cough. So a small little spray will just bring a person out of that particular thought process. Moving on to the next sense, which is touch, the sense of touch. The easiest thing, technically, the easiest thing that one can do when a person is having thoughts of suicidal nature or extremely scary thoughts, is to go to the nearest person that you feel safe with, and ask that person to hold your hands, or hold that person's hands for a little moment. Maybe a family member, it may be a friend, or give them a tight hug for a little while. The sense of touch reinforces the security and calmness uh, into our rationality, which stops the negative thought patterns which are already going on in our mind. Not always are people comfortable to do things like this, because they are not okay with going to another person for help at that matter, at that time, maybe. So what else can a person do with the help of touch to get out of those suicidal thoughts? Wrapping a rubber band around the wrist right here. So you wrap a rubber band and you quickly flick it to instill a little bit of pain, however, a sharp sensation. So it is not actually going to hurt you or your wrist, but it will bring you out of, it snaps you out of that thinking pattern and process at that point of time. So rubber band is one of an effective way to ground yourself back into reality. Another thing is holding ice in hand. So going to the refrigerator, taking a block of ice and just holding it in your hand and watching it melt. So the ice creates a sensation, a sharp sensation of the freezing of your palm that again brings your focus completely to the hand out of those spiraling negative thoughts. If the negative thoughts or the suicidal thoughts are not as strong in nature as, or not very extreme, it can also help to just keep small objects like clay around so that you dive into the clay, you mold it as per what you wish to make out of it, and that releases a lot of stress and also brings you to the moment and grounds you. Another very easy and simple thing to do is rely on your cushions or your pillows, hug them, or a big soft toy if you have. Take that few seconds to reach out to it and just give it a tight hug. Again, a sense of security, breaking patterns of negative thought. Going on to the next sense, which is the sense of taste. This is a little dicey because this can sometimes lead a person to overindulge or use this a lot. So we have to be very careful while using a sense of taste to ground ourselves. So the idea is to stop when grounding is achieved. It shouldn't be like you're having a bucket of ice cream constantly. Whenever you have a suicidal thought, you have a bucket of ice cream. That becomes extremely toxic in nature. However, just to get you out of that negative frame of mind, what we can do is bite into a lime or lemon. Again, lemon has a very sharp sensation and a sharp taste, and that helps us to ground us. Ginger is another useful option. Chilies. Now, chilies are highly effective in this particular grounding. However, it has to be carefully stopped the moment a person has regained they are grounded. Ice is another thing which they could just taste and put it on the top of your tongue. So it involves both the grounding techniques of touch and of taste. We go to the next one, which is sight. So scanning the environment is a method that evolutionarily humans use to create a sense of protection. So you scan the environment to see if there are any predators, if there is some danger which is trying to attack me or not. So that process itself instills a kind of mechanism into our brain which starts calming us. And the moment we see around us, we notice that, okay, we are not in that kind of situation right now. We are in a safe space. We are probably in our rooms. And I like my room. So having a scan around, focusing on particular objects, for example, a picture of a religious figure or a model of a religious figure, um, a person you call your God or something that is resonating with your idea of God helps to focus on it helps a lot to focus on things like that. There can be photos of your loved ones, photos of the people that you really care for, gifts given by them, or simple little models of tokens of their love. You can just keep that to look at it and feel that sense of security and protection. Posters on the wall. So a lot of my clients have this habit of keeping posters on the wall, and sometimes there is a little saying on it or a particular person on the poster that motivates them or brings them to the reality or to remember that, okay, that person didn't give up, so I want to be like that person and I will be exactly doing that. So that helps in grounding, bringing us back to our senses. If there is no object available to do any of this, we can also rely on our mental imagery, imagination, think about all of these things that we just mentioned, I just mentioned over here. The last part of this is hearing. So, using our hearing sensation as a tool of grounding is something we all must have done at some point of time, listening to music to feel a little better. Um, However, during extremely high negative producing thoughts or suicidal thoughts, The music that you listen to or the sound that you listen to has to be a little loud and sharp so that it breaks the monotony of those thought processes and brings you to the conscious sense. So any kind of white noise or any kind of loud noise actually may help in that situation to break the flow and then understand getting back into reality. Otherwise, another method to use at this point of time is to play very, very soothing sounds, things that you can calm yourself with, things that can help you to remember the good times. So, ocean waves, or it can be also the sound of water, sound of birds, sound of rainfall. Another important thing over here can be a TV show that you have already seen before, or a song that you know has been your favorite song since a long time. Relying on that to listen to it at that point of time. Very important and helpful thing right here is to actually talk to a friend or listen, or even just listen to a friend or somebody you trust. Call them up and say, I need to just talk or just listen to you say something. If you're okay with that, could you just speak to me for a while? So that's about it. Having any one or a set of all of these things as a part of your toolkit, as a part of your safety toolkit available already, can be helpful if those thoughts come up suddenly out of nowhere without any warning. So keeping one item of all the senses accessible and ready can help with grounding techniques and grounding method to cope with suicidal thoughts. We are done with the content that I had to speak about right now. So I'm up for any kind of questions. If anybody has any questions, please ask me right now. How much time does it take to cure from depression? It totally depends on the individual scenario. It may take from a month to a year or years together sometimes. So, very individual specific. One thing is there that depression does have a cure. How much time it would take depends on each and every person's coping strategies, support systems, and regularity with respect to medication or therapy. Uh, it's absolutely tailored for that one individual person. Any other question?
Uh, Thank you, Kasturi, for addressing with all the grounding methods. They were really useful because many a times no one knows the break point, like how we can handle the situation. Like if there are thoughts, what can be done. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for guiding on that aspect, and thank you for joining us for this wonderful session. And I would
Thank you,
like to share
Tejasvi.
few comments that we have received from our viewers.
Yes, please.
So, yes, there's a question by Tanha. Like, if a person has used all the techniques, still feels suicidal, then what would you suggest?
Hmm. So, as I started in the beginning itself, that any of these techniques are not a cure for depression, are not a cure to get out of suicidal thoughts altogether. These techniques are to be used in that moment. Some of them may work for some people, some of them may not. So you have to find that right kind of method. And in order to do all of these things, you have to seek help from a professional who guide you through the entire process, who help you understand what are the things that are suitable for you and what you would be, more comfortable with. And if a person has used all these techniques and they are already, going through it constantly, I would definitely suggest that please do seek help. Talk to somebody before you even seek a professional. Try to break that barrier of your hair, whatever is there in your mind, that fear in your mind, and talk to one person that you may trust. That's a good start.
Okay. And in your session, you mentioned about that we get very much offended, or we feel sad when we think like people are behaving with me like this, like that, or we are not feeling positive about what we are doing. So how we can stay positive with whatever people are talking about us. Like if we are not happy with, let it be for the office scenario or at the personal front or within our friends. So how we can keep ourselves positive in all the negative environment going around.
Hmm. So I have two answers to this question of yours, Tejashree. One thing is when there's a lot of negativity in our own minds, they mainly stem from the fact that there are misinterpretations of various situations around us. So most of the times we make a lot of assumptions that it must be this way and which is why this is wrong, or I feel sad or bad about these things. I'm not accepted, or people will not understand. These are the dialogues that may come across when we feel that there's a lot of negative comments or negativity in the mind. So like I said, number one step can be to actually talk about it and address in the near surroundings, so that we are sure that we are, at least able to get what the person is going through. And secondly, when you said positivity, positivity is so highly enhanced right now that people uh, don't make a space to talk about the thought processes which are negative as well. So the moment we start with discussing and talking about the negativity or anything for that matter, whatever is going on in our mind, it helps to create a starting point of addressing the issues. So maybe that assumption was wrong. Maybe it was not as negative as I thought it would be. So the moment I address it, the opposite person has the right or has the space to refute that no, I don't feel that way. It is not like that. You are loved, you are accepted. See this, see that. So these are the kind of examples that people might give at that point of time, only after it's expressed. So positivity comes when the issues are first addressed or just shared for that matter. So even in all of these situations where things are very negative all around us, things that we can rely on that we know have made us happy before, we can rely on them again. So whether they are memories, whether they are friends with whom we have had a great time, or even our own family members who we are, close to or we can trust. It may be your parents, it may be your brother, sister, it may be a cousin who you haven't spoken to for 4 years, but there was this one moment where you felt very comfortable with that cousin, so you can just share it out with them. So that is, I hope I was able to answer your question.
Right, right. So the important thing is to talk. If you are getting any negative vibes or you are getting into the vicious cycle of thinking about what others are thinking about ourselves, so let's
Hmm.
talk with that particular person and get it sorted.
Hmm.
And we have another question, which is I feel is very important.
Hmm.
Sejal has asked us that her question is how we can support to the loved ones of a suicidal individuals.
Okay, so basically, not the person who is having the thought, but the person who is trying to support them in a situation like that. So how would do we help them to not be scared by the situation that is happening at that moment? Because like I mentioned in the beginning of our session, people get scared with the word of suicide. So if anybody even mentions that I have been having thoughts like this, it's a very scary communication to have for the supporters as well, for the people who are supporting them. Very simple thing is to make it a dialogue and just listen. The biggest issue in this entire situation, what happens is that people start giving advices at that point of time. You should do this, you should do that. There are a lot of shoulds, musts, there are a lot of to-do lists that you have to, they start telling at that point of time. Of course, because that is what they understand, that is what they get, and maybe that helps them. So they try to help their friends or their family members by saying those things. However, every person is different. So even if you're just there sitting beside that person, holding that person's hand, calming down to just giving that space to listen, that, okay, whatever you say, I'm here. Even if it is something which is scary, I'm here to listen. And I may not be able to solve it, but I will be here to help you through it. I will give you probably the right kind of direction. I'll take you to a therapist, I'll take you to a psychiatrist, or I'll, help you to address this and talk about this to some particular person if it is a specific issue. So being there is as powerful as anything else. So that is how you could support a supporter.
Thank you so much for the fantastic guidance on the grounding methods because those are also equally important to cope with the suicidal thoughts. So, I thank you all our viewers for joining us and do make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get guidance on different topic of health, let it be physical, mental, and if you are looking forward for any personalized consultation, you can call us on the number which is there on the screen. So, thank you everyone for joining us for this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.